We live in a time of relentless motion. Scroll, click, rush, repeat. The faster we move, the more we feel we are falling behind. We chase attention, approval, opportunity, as if our worth will finally crystallize the moment the world notices us. But the Stoics offer a different posture: stillness, construction, alignment. They urge us not to chase, but to build, not to perform, but to become. What if you stopped chasing things that flee the moment you grasp for them? What if you chose to build a foundation so steady that the world comes to you because you became undeniable? That is the Stoic way. This video is a map, not a race, a call to build, patiently and privately. Each chapter offers a stone for your foundation. Layer by layer, truth by truth, we shape a life that does not wobble with the winds of approval. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The quiet rebellion against chasing. To chase is to give your power away. When your focus is always outside yourself, on recognition, on reaction, on result, you move by impulse, not intention. The Stoics understood this danger. They saw the world as full of bait, compliments, gold, status, power, and they warned against taking it. Seneca wrote, "If you wish to be loved, love." This is the Stoic reversal. Don't chase affection, generate it. Don't seek praise, do praiseworthy things. The moment you anchor your energy in being instead of wanting, you become sovereign. Think of all the energy lost in trying to impress others, not just in big moments, but in the small, constant calibrations: how you speak, how you dress, how you frame your opinions. Think of the quiet pressure you place on yourself to be liked, to be accepted, to be seen a certain way. It's not just exhausting, it's expensive. Because every ounce of energy spent performing is energy taken away from building something real. Think of the time burned sculpting a version of yourself for others to admire. The curated personality, the restrained truth, the smiles given out of obligation. Ask yourself what could have been built with that same time if it had been poured into depth instead of appearance. Now ask yourself this: who would you be if no one was watching? If there were no eyes to impress, no applause to chase, what would remain of you? That answer reveals your foundation, or the lack of it. Chasing is a silent contract with the world. I will mold myself to what you desire if you only validate me. It's an unspoken agreement that places your identity into the hands of others. You become reactive, always adjusting to their gaze, their judgment, their praise. But the Stoic tears that contract without ceremony. He walks into the arena not to perform, but to stand, not to adapt, but to embody. His principles are not a display, they are his shield. Chasing feels like progress. It keeps you moving. It looks like ambition. But it is often restlessness in disguise, a kind of inner agitation masked as drive. And restlessness never builds. It never lays a steady brick. It starts projects, but never finishes. It promises significance, but delivers exhaustion. Building requires something different. It requires pause, reflection, discernment. You stop asking, "What will they think of me?" and start asking, "What am I becoming?" To build is to trade the thrill of validation for the steadiness of growth. It's not flashy, it's not fast, but it is free. Free from the hunger for attention, free from the fear of irrelevance, free from the exhausting game of trying to be enough in someone else's eyes. It is the quiet revolution of returning to your own standards, your own path, your own sense of meaning without asking for the world's permission. It is a turning inward where depth replaces drama, where substance replaces spectacle. The builder chooses consistency over applause. They do not rely on sudden bursts of energy fueled by admiration. They develop their rhythm, disciplined, focused, and anchored. They know that the world may never understand what they're creating until much later, and even then, that understanding is secondary. What matters most is that they are constructing something solid within themselves. Integrity, discipline, courage, that no one can take or imitate. This kind of building is not about being seen, but about being strong. Not about catching eyes, but about holding ground. And while others chase relevance, the builder cultivates resilience. While others seek to impress, the builder seeks to endure. The builder understands that fleeting moments of recognition fade, but the strength gained through patient creation remains. The builder knows significance is not found in chasing what is fleeting. It is created patiently within, brick by brick, day by day, alone if necessary, steady always. And that steadiness becomes its own kind of quiet power, one that does not need to shout because it cannot be shaken. Each morning, write down what you aim to build that day, a trait, a discipline, a skill. Let it be specific, intentional, and meaningful to the version of yourself you're working toward. Throughout the day, let this intention serve as your compass, guiding your choices, your responses, and your focus. Build with presence. At night, reflect on what you chased. Was it validation? Was it comparison? Was it urgency disguised as purpose? Write it down without judgment, only observation. Notice the difference in how you feel on the days you built something quietly versus the days you spent your energy chasing shadows. Trace the subtle shift in your mood, your clarity, your confidence. Track the days you built something quietly, without applause, without announcement. Begin to notice how those days settle into your mind like bricks setting into place. There is a weight to them, not heavy, but solid. A different kind of momentum starts to emerge, one that is slow, deliberate, and deeply rooted, one that doesn't demand to be seen, but begins to shape who you are becoming. Chapter 2. The Architecture of Character. The Stoics believed that character is fate, not status, not wealth, not luck. Character. Who you are becomes your destiny, and character is not found. It is constructed. It's not a discovery waiting for you in the distance. It's a creation waiting for you to begin. Day by day, choice by choice, you are the craftsman of your future, whether you act with awareness or not. Brick by brick, word by word, decision by decision, you are building something with your actions. You are laying down a pattern that either fortifies you or fractures you. When the Stoic asks what kind of person you are becoming, they are not asking about your dreams or your image. They are asking what kind of internal structure you are choosing to create through your behavior. Is it durable or is it decorative? Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, but you wouldn't know it from his private writings. He spoke to himself not as a ruler, but as a servant of reason. Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. That was his blueprint. In the pages of Meditations, he held himself to the same standard as any man. No excuses for title, no special treatment for power. Just the daily effort to live by principle, to construct a soul aligned with virtue. Character is a structure you retreat to when storms come. The stronger the build, the less external you need. You stop reaching for reassurance. You stop fearing outcomes. You stop collapsing when the unexpected knocks on your door. You do not need the perfect day or the perfect praise to hold yourself together. You no longer rely on applause to feel strong. You no longer panic when plans break. You bend, but you do not break. Because what you've built inside is sturdier than what is shifting outside. The world measures success in spotlight. The Stoic measures it in structure. How well are your virtues stacked? How stable is your integrity when no one is clapping for it? How aligned is your behavior with your philosophy? Are your values situational, or are they structural? These are the questions that reveal the true architecture of your soul. Because when no one is watching, when the stage is gone and the mirror is honest, do you still stand tall? Or do you crumble beneath the weight of your own contradictions? To the Stoic, the answer to that question is everything. That is the foundation upon which the rest of your life is built, or buried. It's the dividing line between a life constructed with care and one thrown together in reaction. If your character is weak, everything else collapses under pressure. Goals fade, relationships falter, peace vanishes. But if your character is sound, it becomes a pillar that holds the weight of life without bending. Everything durable rests on this foundation: your discipline, your resilience, your clarity under chaos. When character is your cornerstone, you don't have to scramble when adversity strikes. You simply return to your structure. You lean on the work you've already done, the principles you've already practiced, and that gives you something most people are missing: stability. The Stoic does not build their life on external validation. They build it on internal truth. That is why this foundation matters more than anything else. Because when all the noise quiets, when the rewards slow down, when the spotlight fades, all you will be left with is what you've built. And if it's solid, it will hold you. If it's hollow, it will bury you. Design your virtue blueprint. Choose 3 core traits that define the person you deeply aspire to be. These are not decorations, they are cornerstones. For example, courage, humility, self-control. You might also consider integrity, patience, or discipline. Select the ones that resonate most with your current challenges and future vision. Write them down. Give each one a clear definition in your own words so that it becomes a personal standard, not just a general concept. Each week, focus on one trait as your North Star. Let it guide your decisions, reactions, and internal dialogue. When faced with discomfort or uncertainty, ask yourself, what would this virtue look like right now? Journal specific decisions or interactions that reflected this trait or where it was missing. Note not just your successes, but your struggles. That's where the blueprint gains dimension. At the end of the week, review the moments that strengthened or weakened your connection to that virtue. Reflect on patterns. Were there environments, people, or mindsets that made it easier or harder to live out your value? Adjust your blueprint as needed. You are the architect, and this is a living design. Layer by layer, you are not just studying character, you are engineering it. Chapter 3: Energy as Currency. Your attention is your most valuable currency. Spend it wisely, and you build clarity. Scatter it, and you chase shadows. When you learn to direct your focus with intention, everything changes. You no longer move from one distraction to the next. You begin to carve a path. Stoicism teaches the radical idea that your energy belongs to you. No one has the right to drain it unless you hand them the cord. And yet, every day, we give it away thoughtlessly, scrolling, reacting, absorbing noise that doesn't serve us. Every time you check a notification out of habit, argue to win approval, or overthink a conversation from yesterday, you're spending energy that could have been invested in building. Every thought loop you entertain, every drama you replay in your mind, costs you clarity. These small leaks add up. They erode the very focus you need to create something lasting. The cost is not always obvious, but it is steep. Epictetus taught that what disturbs you is not the event, but your judgment about it. That judgment consumes mental fuel. It's the inner commentary, not the outer occurrence, that drains you. And when your energy leaks through worry, anger, and comparison, you have nothing left for your craft. You arrive at your work empty, not because the work is too hard, but because you've spent yourself on the irrelevant. The Stoic filters what deserves attention, not to be cold, but to be concentrated. They understand that attention is a form of devotion, and so they guard it with care. They do not chase every feeling that rises within them, nor do they entertain every opinion thrown their way. Instead, they observe, they examine, they discard what is unworthy, they make their focus intentional, they choose where to aim, they ask, does this help me build? Does this move me toward virtue? And if it doesn't, they let it go. Attention is not something you owe the world. It is something you owe your values. It is your most intimate resource. The direction of your attention shapes the quality of your days, and the quality of your days becomes the substance of your life. The Stoic does not waste this resource on things that only generate noise. They channel it toward clarity, toward discipline, toward the structure of their own becoming. Every distraction resisted is a quiet act of self-respect. Every moment of focus is a vote for who they're choosing to become. To build something enduring, a skill, a business, a life of value, you must guard your energy like treasure. This is not just about working harder, it's about protecting the space in which clarity and creation are possible. You must recognize that what you give your attention to becomes what you serve. If your energy is constantly scattered, if your focus is hijacked by every distraction, if your emotions are being pulled by things beyond your control, you won't be able to build anything that lasts. You will be too drained to sustain depth. Waste it on what is not yours to control, and you grow bitter. You begin to feel resentment, not just at others, but at yourself, for not having the reserves to pursue what truly matters to you. You feel drained, not because you've worked hard, but because your effort was scattered and your mind was divided. You tried to do everything, react to everything, respond to everything, and in the end, you produced nothing of substance. You chased storms instead of laying stones. You responded to noise instead of answering your higher calling. But protect that energy, and everything changes. You grow powerful, not the loud, performative kind of power that demands recognition, but the grounded, inward power that holds its shape under pressure. The quiet kind that makes your presence calm and unshakable. A kind of power that does not waver with opinions or trends because it is not built on anything temporary. Power comes not from doing more, but from doing less of what depletes and more of what deepens. The Stoic understands this distinction. They conserve energy by practicing restraint, not repression. They say no, not out of scarcity, but out of respect for what they are saying yes to. They let go of what is petty, so they can serve what is permanent. It comes from focusing on what is essential day after day, regardless of who notices. It comes from protecting your hours like sacred ground, from refusing to let your attention be cheapened by every passing impulse. That is how the Stoic builder operates, not frantically, but fiercely focused, calm, deliberate, and disciplined. They are not trying to win the race. They are trying to last through all seasons. They channel their limited energy not toward applause, but toward alignment. They don't build to be seen, they build to be solid, not toward everything, but toward what will matter 10 years from now, toward what will hold up under pressure, what will still feel right when the crowd is gone and the spotlight is off. That is how they endure. That is how they leave behind something real, something that does not beg for attention, because it earns respect through its quiet, lasting presence. Start each day with a circle of worth. Draw 2 circles. The inner one is what you control. The outer is what you don't. Place your goals inside the inner circle. Anytime stress creeps in, check if it belongs to the outer ring. If it does, release it. Chapter 4. The Power of Doing Without Witness. We are conditioned to believe that value must be visible, that unless someone sees it, it doesn't count. We equate recognition with worth and assume that progress is only real when it's public. But the Stoics knew that the best parts of life are often lived in silence, that the deepest growth happens in solitude. Virtue is not performance, it is practice, it is quiet, it is invisible until tested. You build in the dark what you will one day be respected for in the light. But that respect is not the goal, the building is. The moment you shift your focus away from visibility and toward internal alignment, you begin to understand a different kind of strength, the kind that doesn't collapse when no one is looking, the kind that doesn't dissolve when praise is absent. Think of a sculptor chipping away in a quiet room. No applause, no audience, only the sound of stone giving way to shape. That is the Stoic at work, quietly refining, silently resisting distraction. Every swing of the chisel is unseen by the world, but each one matters. Every decision made in solitude becomes part of the final form. And though the world may only see the result, the Stoic knows that the true masterpiece was the process. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Not with a spotlight on him, not with cameras or crowds, just action. Silent improvement is the most authentic form. He didn't seek praise. He sought peace with his principles. That was enough. Social media teaches us to document, to share, to narrate every inch of our growth so we might be applauded for it. It rewards visibility, not necessarily virtue. It pushes us to showcase progress instead of embodying it. In this landscape, silence can feel like failure, not because we're not improving, but because no one is witnessing it in real time. But the Stoic asks, can you train without trophies? Can you improve without announcements? Can you keep showing up, doing the work and honoring your principles, even when no one is watching? Can you do the work not for the gallery, but for the ground it lays beneath your feet? That's the real question. Because the foundation you're building isn't meant to be displayed. It's meant to hold you up. It's meant to support the weight of real life, real pressure, real uncertainty. And the truth is, most of that building will happen in solitude. Quiet mornings, late nights, unseen decisions, no claps, no validation, just you and your standard. The one who builds in silence earns a different kind of strength. A strength not born from public display on social media, but from alignment, one that doesn't need defending because it was never built on the approval of others, one that is unshakable because it was forged in the absence of praise. Strength like that is rare, because it doesn't feed on attention, it grows in its absence. It doesn't crumble when recognition is delayed. It doesn't falter when it's misunderstood. It deepens instead. This kind of strength becomes a quiet anchor in a loud world. It doesn't require display to be valid. It doesn't require confirmation to be meaningful. It becomes its own reward. It shapes your habits, your discipline, your ability to stand steady when the noise returns. And it gives you something few people possess today: independence from the crowd. And what is built without needing to be seen is harder to shake, harder to break, and more deeply rooted in truth. It's not fragile because it wasn't made for decoration. It was made for durability. This strength is like an underground spring, quiet, unseen, but always flowing. It's the kind of strength that carries you through rejection, through failure, through the slow and silent seasons when nothing around you affirms your direction. It holds you together in the long stretches of effort where there are no milestones, no affirmations, just the steady rhythm of your own integrity. It's the kind of strength that allows you to keep going, not because someone told you you're doing well, but because you know you're living in alignment with your values. Because you know that the quiet commitment to truth, to practice, to principle, is forming something in you that no audience can give and no critic can take away. You don't need applause to keep moving. You don't need permission to keep becoming. That is the essence of Stoic power: quiet, sturdy, and invisible to everyone but you. It is the kind of strength that doesn't demand to be noticed because it knows its own depth. And ironically, it is that very invisibility that makes it so powerful, because it cannot be flattered into laziness. It cannot be insulted into doubt. It simply endures, unshaken by neglect, untouched by fame, rooted in a truth too deep for trend. It is immune to hype and unmoved by neglect. It grows not by the light of admiration, but in the shadows of discipline, where real transformation takes place. It stands tall in silence, nourished by self-respect and purpose, not applause. It continues to deepen with every unnoticed decision made in alignment with virtue, with every temptation resisted, every principle upheld in private. This kind of power is not brittle. It does not snap under pressure or wither under scrutiny. It expands beneath the surface, holding firm even when everything around it is shifting. That is the strength that lasts. That is what the Stoic builds. A kind of resilience so quietly earned that when adversity arrives, there is no need to scramble, only to return to what has already been forged. It is not a house of cards. It is a fortress of character. Pick one habit or discipline to develop privately. No posts, no updates, no announcements. Let it be yours and yours alone, unseen, unshared, and undisturbed by anyone else's perception. Practice it daily, not as a performance, but as a quiet commitment to your future self. Let it be a form of self-respect, not self-promotion. When you keep a discipline hidden from the world, it becomes more intimate, more sacred. You begin to engage with it for its own sake, not for external validation. In silence, your motives purify. You stop asking, "Will this impress?" and start asking, "Will this strengthen me?" The work becomes internalized, rooted, honest. Let the strength you gain speak without your voice, not through declarations, but through presence. You will notice it in your posture, in your restraint, in the clarity of your mind, and the stability of your emotions. Others might not see the change immediately, but you will feel it. And over time, that silent momentum builds into something that doesn't need to be explained. Feel the power of silent progress, the kind that doesn't beg to be witnessed because it is too busy becoming. The kind that transforms you from the inside out, layer by layer, until one day you wake up realizing you didn't just keep a habit. You became someone new, not in a single visible moment, but quietly, over time, through repetition, through intention, through the unseen work that never needed a stage. Chapter 5. The Patience of Builders. In chasing, we crave immediacy. We want signs that it's working, proof that our actions are paying off. We rush toward outcomes because we fear what stillness might reveal about our patience, our belief, our ability to endure. In building, we embrace delay. We learn to value the invisible progress that unfolds quietly over time. To build something meaningful is to work without rushing. It is to trust the depth of your foundation more than the speed of your ascent. The Stoics were patient not because they lacked ambition, but because they respected process. They understood that what is rushed is rarely rooted. Rome was not built in a day, a cliché, yes, but also a Stoic principle. Real progress is not just forward motion, it is alignment with purpose. It is the willingness to repeat, to refine, to return again and again to what matters. Progress is a form of loyalty to your standard, your goal, your values. And sometimes the deepest progress looks like standing still, choosing not to compromise when it would be easier to cut corners. When you plant a seed, it disappears into soil. For a time, there is nothing to show for your effort, no signs of growth, just silence. But beneath, something is happening. The Stoic honors this hidden growth. The stem grows deep before it breaks the surface. They do not panic at the absence of visible results. They trust the rhythm of honest labor. They understand that what matters most is often happening beneath the surface, out of sight, but never out of significance. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And much of what we waste is squandered in the panic of not seeing results. We abandon the process too soon. We trade the slow mastery of patience for the cheap rush of premature reward. We confuse urgency with purpose and end up building nothing that lasts. Building is boring. It is slow, but it is sacred, not because it looks impressive to others, but because it reshapes the one who stays committed. It strips you down and makes you face your patterns, your impatience, your doubts, your distractions. Every repetition, every quiet morning of effort is a brick. Every time you choose discipline over ease, truth over comfort, intention over impulse, you lay another stone. You shape something not just outside you, but within you. Your skill improves, yes, but more importantly, your character strengthens. You become someone who can be trusted with responsibility, with difficulty, with success. You stop chasing the illusion of quick wins and start investing in what cannot be taken from you. One day, those bricks become a fortress, not just of skill or success, but of soul. A structure built from honesty and repetition. A shelter that protects your peace in storms, your purpose in confusion, and your clarity when the world becomes loud again. And when the storms come, as they always do, it's not speed that will save you. It's not flair, luck, or recognition. It's what you built when no one was looking. It's the hours you showed up, even when it felt pointless. The habits you kept when no one said thank you. The choices you made in silence. That is the difference between collapsing and standing tall, between enduring and evaporating. That is the power of what is built, not chased. Adopt a builder's calendar. For 30 days, focus on consistent effort over results, not intensity, not perfection, just presence and repetition. Log your progress, not as a way to prove anything to others, but to witness your own devotion. Each checkmark, each line filled in, is a quiet reminder. You showed up again and again. That matters. Reward the habit, not the outcome. Praise yourself not for how far you got, but for how steady you remained. Track your days not by achievements, but by alignment. Did you honor your process today? That is the real victory. Let time compound what effort begins. Like interest in a quiet bank account, the power of your practice won't be flashy at first, but it builds incrementally, invisibly, until one day what seemed small has become unshakable. That's how builders operate, not by chasing intensity, but by choosing consistency, not by demanding results overnight, but by trusting the strength of patience multiplied by effort. Day by day, brick by brick. That is the calendar of those who endure. Chapter 6. Begin with the endurance to continue. Building begins with belief, but it survives on endurance. It's easy to start, easy to plan, easy to set intentions in moments of clarity. But building something real, something that can withstand time and turmoil, requires returning to the task long after the excitement has faded. Not every day will be fueled by inspiration. Most will be quiet, ordinary, repetitive. And it is exactly in these moments that your strength is either reinforced or surrendered. The Stoics knew that momentum is not just motion. It is the disciplined decision to continue, even when the spark is gone. We often imagine greatness as a series of giant leaps, heroic efforts, or sudden breakthroughs. But in truth, greatness is made of faithful steps repeated in obscurity. It is built through small, consistent actions done without applause. The Stoic does not wait for emotion to dictate effort. They do not rely on fleeting bursts of passion. They lean on principle. They anchor their actions in values, not moods. They do not ask if they feel like showing up. They ask if it's aligned with their character to show up regardless. This endurance is not glamorous. It will often feel like invisibility. It will feel like routine. It will feel like questioning your progress because there is no dramatic feedback. It will feel like doing the same thing again and again while the world moves on to flashier things. But over time, you begin to notice something deeper taking root. Stability, clarity, grit. You stop asking if it's working and start recognizing that you're changing. The effort you thought no one saw becomes the very foundation everyone else one day stands on. When you stay with the process, when you resist the urge to abandon it for faster paths or easier pleasures, you are not just building habits, you are becoming someone. You are reinforcing your values through action. You are proving to yourself over and over again that you can be counted on. You are shaping your identity, not by what you say, not by what you hope, but by what you return to when the noise fades. This is not about willpower. It's about commitment. It's about showing up when it's dull, when it's inconvenient, when it seems invisible. Because that is where true transformation lives, in the dull, unremarkable stretches where most people stop. It's about knowing that the true rewards are slow, but they are lasting. That what is built with patience will serve you when inspiration can't. Because inspiration is fleeting, but integrity is renewable. And when you build from that place, you're not just constructing routines, you're creating a foundation that can hold up under stress, under failure, under success. Build the endurance to keep building, not by force, but by devotion. Devotion to your future self, devotion to your principles, devotion to the kind of life that doesn't need a crowd to feel complete, not by hype, but by habit. Because habit is what remains when excitement disappears, and that's when the real building begins. Endurance is quiet faith. Faith that what you're doing matters, even when no one notices. Faith that the seeds you planted are growing roots, even if the soil looks the same. Faith that your effort, compounded by time, will carve out strength that no shortcut could ever replace. That kind of faith isn't loud. It doesn't brag. It doesn't beg for validation. It just stays. It endures. Trust that everything great is born in the quiet. Let the days add up. Let your consistency become your confidence. Let your discipline speak louder than your doubts. And when you look back, it will not be the bursts of effort that changed your life. It will be the fact that you never stopped showing up, especially when it would have been easier not to. That is what separates the chaser from the builder. One needs the world's attention to feel worthy. The other just needs to keep laying bricks. Chapter 7. The stillness between the steps. There is a form of building that does not involve motion, but instead the discipline to stay still. The Stoics understood that true clarity often emerges not from action, but from restraint. In a world that glorifies constant movement, choosing not to react is a form of mastery. Choosing not to rush is a form of strength. Stillness is not the absence of progress. It is the presence of purpose. It is the deliberate pause between steps, the breath before the decision, the silence before the answer. It is the refusal to let urgency define direction. When you are still, you can see what the rush would have hidden. You can think clearly. You can act intentionally. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because improvement is slow, it's internal, it's invisible to those who only recognize motion. Stillness invites misunderstanding, but it also invites mastery. When you embrace stillness, you begin to hear your own voice again, not the noise of comparison, not the fear of falling behind, not the echo of what others think you should be doing, but the calm, steady reminder of what you value, of who you are without pressure or pretense. Stillness allows your true priorities to rise to the surface. You begin to hear the difference between what's urgent and what's important, between what feels productive and what is actually meaningful. You begin to notice the difference between momentum and madness, between movement that has direction and movement that is simply avoidance dressed as ambition, between doing something meaningful and just staying busy so you don't have to sit with yourself. Stillness exposes the truth, and while that truth can be uncomfortable, it is also liberating, because it gives you the power to realign. Every builder must learn when to move and when to pause. The pause is not a weakness, it is a strategy. It is the breath that keeps the pace sustainable, the moment where emotion settles and clarity returns. The pause is where the intention is set. The pause is where patience is restored. The pause is where clarity sharpens. Without it, action becomes blind. Chasing returns, noise resumes, the mind clutters, the hands fidget. But with stillness, you don't just build, you build wisely. You begin to act with precision, not pressure. Stillness is how the Stoic regains sovereignty over the mind. It is the ground where impulse is tamed and wisdom is invited to speak. It is how they assess the terrain before stepping forward. They do not leap blindly. They scan, they study, they center themselves. It is how they keep from being swept away by the current of chaos, the frenzy of the world that urges haste. Stillness is their anchor when the winds of distraction rise. They do not see stillness as wasted time, but as a sharpening of the blade before it is needed, as a gathering of internal strength, a deepening of mental clarity, as a way to return to their principles before returning to their pace. In this pause, they align not only their strategy, but their soul. Let your progress breathe. Let your process include space, not as an afterthought, but as a sacred part of the build. Leave room for silence to teach you what noise never can. Let your rest be intentional and your silence purposeful, not just gaps between action, but moments where wisdom gathers. Stillness is not a detour. It is part of the map. It helps you track where you've been, sense where you are, and see where you're going with clarity you wouldn't find in motion alone. Let there be moments where you are not trying to achieve, but simply to listen, to yourself, to the truth, to the next right step. These moments act as tuning forks for the soul, aligning your next decision with your highest values. Let your next action come not from the pressure to respond, but from the peace of having reflected. Let it be born from clarity, not reaction. Let it echo purpose rather than panic. That is what the Stoic does. They do not waste stillness. They do not fill every moment with motion or measure value only by output. They wield stillness like a craftsman wields a tool, deliberately, thoughtfully, and with strength. They know that it is not the hammering that ensures the build, but the measure, the precision, the thought behind each stroke. It is the silence between strikes that holds the rhythm of mastery. The Stoic builder does not just move forward, they move with meaning, and that makes all the difference. Chapter 8. Win in private first. Before anything great is built in the world, it must first be built within. The Stoics taught that no external victory is secure if it wasn't earned internally first. You must win the inner battle, the war of distraction, the tug of fear, the impulse to quit, before any outer achievement can be stable or meaningful. Winning in private means choosing discipline when no one will applaud you. It means showing up with integrity in the quiet places where your effort is invisible and unrewarded, where you receive no affirmation, only the silent satisfaction of having honored your word to yourself. It is the strength to be consistent when there's no audience and no promise of reward. When the temptation to cut corners arrives, or when the work feels thankless and slow, Winning in private means staying loyal to the standard you set, because it defines who you are when no one's watching. This kind of victory is not glamorous, it does not trend, it does not sparkle, but it is what makes everything else possible. Because if you do not win privately, if you do not build stability within, the pressure of the world will eventually expose every hollow spot you tried to cover with ambition. Every crack in your character will show the moment challenge appears. You cannot fake what you haven't formed in silence.